Today's project is showing you how to make a simple plant pot bag. I have to say that slowly, right? Plant pot bag. A heavyweight fabric is the best thing to use to make a plant pot bag. I'm making a bag for this pot. So the first thing I need to do is to measure the widest part, the circumference of the widest part of the pot, and then add a couple of inches up to 3 inches, and that is going to be the circumference, is going to be the width of your fabric when you're cutting your piece. Then you measure the height, and that is going to be the length of your fabric. Circumference is 21 inches, so you would add a couple more inches or up to 3 inches, whatever, how depends on how big you want the bag to be. And so if I add 2 inches, that would be 23. So 23 is going to be the width, and the height is 8.5 inches. If I want it a little higher, I could go up to 10 inches. Plus I'll need to add for flat stitch the top, so I'll add maybe another inch or so. You will cut, if you have one big piece of fabric, then you just cut one rectangle. Here I'm using 2 rectangles because I'm using fabric samples. Okay, so I'm just putting 2 coordinating pieces of fabric samples together, and then I'll just stitch around to make my bag. So I'll start stitching. Now that's it, finished stitching. If you are using 2 pieces of fabric, make sure you pin your fabric panels together so they don't slip around while you are stitching. There we go. So we have a bag. However, we need to give the bag a little dimension. See how it has that depth? So we need to give the bag a little dimension. And here's an easy way to do it. Basically, stick your finger in the corner of the bottom of the bag and make a little rectangle on the corner. Now line up the seam at the side to the seam on the bottom. So line up both seams, and to give your bag a little dimension, you take it to your sewing machine, basically just stitch across. There we go. In order to get that the dimension that we need, I'll show you how it looks inside. This is how it looks in the inside. So it will help your bag to sit. Okay, so that's one side. So this is how we do the other side. We basically line up the seams again, the seam at the side to the seam at the bottom as best as you can, and take the one we've done before over to this one, basically fold in half, line them up together, and just mark the edges where the stitch is on the one we've already done, and put a pin in just to give you a mark so you know where to stitch to and from. And the other edge, do the same thing, line them up. Starts right here, so we're gonna put our pin right in, and then we now know that we will be stitching from one pin to the next pin. Take it to the sewing machine and stitch. But before you start stitching, after you have put your presser foot down, take your pin out so as not to stitch on your pin, right? Okay, there we go. And then we start stitching. And we have a good idea where we're going, so take the other pin out and then just finish off your stitching. And now we have our two little bunny ears. We can either cut them off or we can leave them. Now I should mention that I'm using fabric samples, so the edges are already serged. You may want to use a serger, or you may want to do some zigzag just to finish off your edges so they don't fray. And there we go, we're turning inside out, and our bag has that dimension that we need for it to be able to sit. Okay, so now let's finish off the top edge by just doing a flat stitch. I've started here already to do the flat stitch. Basically, you're gonna turn your fabric 2 times, just eyeball it, don't need to measure. It's just a simple flat stitch. However, when you're stitching across your seams, make sure you open the seam so that your fabric does not get too bulky in that area. Okay, so just gonna finish off the stitching. Fold and stitch as you go. And don't forget to open your seam so that your fabric does not get too bulky where the seams are. That's it. I'm done. My bag is done. So the bag is finished. It doesn't need anything else. However, if you wanted to add a little more detail to your bag, you could add a tassel trim around the top edge or even a gimp trim.